Sure. So I'm Eric Carter Lundeen. I am from Socorro, New Mexico. I have been working in franchising for, I would say, about 15 years with different brands. I also own a business which is called the Bareilles Podcasters Guild. Uh, it's a podcasting studio in downtown Albuquerque. The whole goal is to make podcasting accessible to everyday New Mexicans so that they can amplify their voices and let our stories be told. There's so many rich stories coming out of the state that uh, I think that people need to hear them. And so, along with that, I host 3 podcasts, and I'm glad to be here. I'm from Socorro, New Mexico. Was born and raised there. So it's a pretty small town. I think when I was growing up there, there might have been about 15,000 people that lived there at the time. Um, so it was pretty common to pretty much know everybody that you went to school with. If you weren't related to them, you probably were related to somebody that was related to them. So that was an interesting experience growing up there. We used to joke about you can't even sneeze without everybody knowing that you just sneezed, and so that's been an interesting thing, going from there to a larger city in adulthood. Um, it was definitely a good place to grow up. I feel like there was a lot of community there. People were willing to help each other out. It's gotten a lot smaller since I lived there, but it's definitely a special place in my heart. So I went to Socorro High School, which is the high school. I think the social interaction definitely helped me be better at interacting in my professional life. Um, Definitely English class has helped me tremendously. Being in business and working in organizations, the importance of communication can't be understated, and good communication. Uh, I've worked for organizations where there's poor communication, and that's definitely been difficult and challenging. So I think that the English class, as much as I didn't like writing papers, as much as I didn't like learning the fundamentals of English, it's really served me well when it comes to things like job interviews, having conversations with clients, those kinds of things. The more articulate you are, I feel like the more seriously you're taken in the business world. And so I think that served me very well. I was very fortunate to have some strong English teachers that really wouldn't settle for me just turning in whatever I wanted. They pushed me to do a little bit more and to do better. And I'm grateful for that. I didn't like it then, but I am grateful for it today because it has helped me professionally. And as much as I hate to admit it, math has helped me tremendously in business. And I still hate math. I still don't like it, but I still use it every single day. So as much as I don't like it and as much as I resist it, it's definitely been very helpful. Yeah, sure. So I work as what's known as an operations manager. I've been in franchising for, gosh, it's double digit years. I don't really know. I would say it's probably 12 to 15 years that I've been in franchising. And so in my role, what I do is I go to all of the locations within my organization that I oversee. So for me, that's 46 locations. It's a restaurant chain right now, but I've worked in other franchise concepts that are all different. And so my job really is to influence the franchisees, which are the owners of those locations, to do things that they may not necessarily want to do. Things that are hopefully in their best interests, things that might help their business grow, that might help them be more profitable. Those are things that are very important to business owners. And sometimes people can be their own worst enemy. They can get in the way of their own success sometimes. And so I provide an objective view into their business and give them feedback on things that they can improve, and small steps that they can take. And so communication skills have been critical in that regard because I have to have a conversation with somebody, tell them that maybe what they're doing isn't the best way to do it, and be careful not to offend them. So there's a lot of juggling that has to happen, and I have to be very careful about the words that I use and the way that I communicate with people because it can easily switch from me being helpful to them being offended, and then that becomes counterproductive. So my typical day, aside from my day job, I also have a business and a couple of podcasts, and I'm doing a bunch of other things. So I usually will wake up, have some coffee, go open my computer up, start checking emails, dealing with things that I need to deal with that maybe I didn't get to from the day before. A lot of my job is having conversations, whether it's on the phone or through email. Sometimes it's in person. With the pandemic, it's been a little bit different lately. Typically, I would travel to all of my locations multiple times a year just to get eyes on what's going on because I can't really give good feedback on how the operations are going if I'm not there. So I'll spend a tremendous amount of time in the restaurants, coaching, training, educating, those kinds of things, and course correcting. You know, sometimes there's some food safety issues that we have to address. I'm in charge of those as well. Um, so a typical day is not typical for me, I guess is what I'm getting at. Um, I'm either going to be on the phone with people on Zoom, or I will be in my car driving to a location. I might be in an airplane flying somewhere. It's really hard to know, which is why I like the job because it's always different. Every day is different. There's always a new challenge. Once my day is done, once my laptop is closed, I'm furiously writing for my two podcasts. I'm doing research, I'm interviewing guests, I'm editing. Um, and then I also have a business that I run, which is a podcasting studio in downtown Albuquerque. And so when I'm not doing all the other things I'm doing, I'm working on, setting things up here and making sure that my members are able to come in and record and do so safely. So it's a lot of stuff that happens all day. There's never a typical day for me. It's always different, which is why I like my life. Why I like my career because I get bored very easily and I have a short attention span. So it's good for me to be messing around with a bunch of different things at the same time. Sure. So definitely getting my high school degree helped me tremendously. Having a diploma, I took kind of a weird route to my career. I really wasn't certain what I wanted to do when I got out of high school, but I knew I didn't want to be sitting in a classroom anymore. And so I went to my first couple of weeks of college, and I just really felt like it wasn't the right time for me yet. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't ready for it. So I went and started working. And at the time, I think there was a lot of pressure to be a student in college immediately after high school and to jump into that. I wish somebody would have told me that maybe it would have made more sense for me to work a little while to get my feet wet and to understand what I wanted to do before I did that because I did waste some money, unfortunately. But I worked and I started in restaurants. I started waiting tables, became a manager, worked my way up. I was getting promoted pretty successfully. Moved into hotels, high end hotels, fine dining at first, and then into convention services and catering, and then eventually into hotel sales. And I did all of this without having a degree. This was all just from hard work and really just trying to understand and learn everything as best I can and do the best job I could possibly do. Uh, then I decided, you know what? Okay, I think I do want to get a degree. So I started going to school, working towards my business degree. It took me a while. I got a bachelor's degree in business administration. I did it all online while working, and in between there, I've had several jobs. So I went from hotels into into graphic design, printing, that kind of thing for a while, um, and then that led me to FedEx office, which was FedEx Kinkos at the time. Uh, from there, I started kind of dabbling with a potential for a promotion that looked interesting to me. It was a job called the district auditor. And basically, it's very similar to what I'm doing now, except it was all corporate owned locations. So we would go in, we would audit the operations, the financials, we would audit everything to do with that job, with that business. And the GMs really didn't like us very much because we would always find something that was wrong and eventually it would not be good for them. So that was a challenging job, just because you have these general managers that were a little bit abrasive and confrontational sometimes. But I learned a lot. I learned about managing, multiple locations, deep diving into numbers, deep diving into operations. I learned so much stuff that really set me up for success in this career that I have now. So that was kind of like the precursor, right? So I had that multi-unit experience. I had that oversight into operations, oversight into financials, as well as training and education. And the way I got that job was I knew the guy that was in it, and I knew that he was planning to move away. And so I kind of approached him and I said, "Hey, man, I think what you do is really interesting. Would you mind if I, on my day off, went with you on a couple of your visits just to see what your job is like?" And he was like, "Absolutely, that'd be great." So he took me with him. I asked a bunch of questions. I probably annoyed him. But what happened was eventually he started inviting me more and more because he felt like I could do it. And so when his boss came to him and he was ready to give his notice, he said, "Hey, I've been working with this guy. He's been learning the job already. You might want to talk to him." And so through the interview, because I already understood the job, uh, I I got the job. It was pretty exciting. Um, and then I moved into franchising. Went back to restaurants and started working there, and was able to apply those skills. And so I just continued to grow and develop. And a lot of what I learned was on the job. Eventually, I decided I wanted an MBA, so I got that. Um, I did that mostly for me. It wasn't because I was expecting to get more pay or a better job or anything out of it. I did that because I wanted to know more about business, to really understand what I was talking about, so that I could be more credible. And really, it was only for my own knowledge that I got my MBA. But it has made me, I feel, more credible when it comes to having these conversations with franchisees. There are certifications you can do. There are associations you can join. You can join the International Franchising Association. There's a certified franchise consultant class you can take. I believe I took that probably 15 years ago or 10 years ago, but it's not required. This skill is pretty niche. It's not something that everybody has. It's not something that anybody can just do. You kind of have to work your way into it. And I took a really weird path there, but I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been challenging, and I've grown personally and professionally. Um, I think that, like I said, the communication, the math, all of that has come into play. Math in particular for me, because a lot of my job is looking at financial statements, and really trying to determine what franchisees can do to be more profitable, how they can save more money. Uh, all of those things come into play, along with helping them understand how to order inventory, how to make projections for sales. I might be talking over some people's heads, but this is just like everyday stuff for me. Um, it's important to know how you're going to perform. That determines how much food you're going to order, how many crew members you're going to bring on staff. It determines a lot of different things. So sales projections are pretty important. That requires a lot of math, and it's not a science, it's an art. which is weird to say, but really it's more of trusting your gut, but also looking at the data at the same time, and using your instincts to analyze that data. um, with regards to podcasting, that kind of happened. I don't know. It was an aha moment for me. I've always been a pretty creative person. I've really loved writing since I was pretty young. Um, I was in drama class in high school and middle school, and uh, in the community theater in Socorro, and so I had been doing a lot of uh, acting and writing and all of those things, and so I have a unique experience. I had a tragedy when I was much younger that happened, and um, I've been really on this quest for justice, in regards to this tragedy. And so I thought I could marry my experience with writing, my experience with the justice system, and with dealing with this tragedy, with my love of podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts for a long time, and I didn't realize how difficult podcasting was until I actually started doing it, but it was I instantly fell in love with it. I really started to just enjoy it. So I started a second podcast, which is all about paranormal stuff in New Mexico. I love that. It's a lot of fun. Um, it's a little bit more humorous than my true crime show. And then I'm actually working on a third show, which is uh, just a more conversational look at life. And so all of this kind of just happened naturally and organically. I connected with some local podcasters here. We built a studio. We started a business called the Barelas Podcasters Guild, and we really just wanted to create a an opportunity for New Mexicans' voices to be heard. And so I've gotten to use my podcasting knowledge along with my business skills, and my management skills to start a business. So all of these things have kind of happened naturally, I guess, through my own curiosity, my own exploration, my own experiences working in other places, realizing, oh, this is not what I want to do. I think that all of that is perfectly natural and perfectly normal. There's really no right way to find your career or your path. I always say that it's important to do what you love, but for me, it took me a long time to figure out what that was. And I started with what I was good at, which was business, and from there it led me kind of the long way around to what I love, which is podcasting. Ideally, what I would like to happen in 5 years, or what I'm working towards happening in 5 years, is I want to build the best podcasting studio, the best audio recording studio and video recording studio in New Mexico. I want to have several satellite locations. So I want one in Las Cruces. I want one in Santa Fe. I want one in Hobbs. All the major cities in New Mexico. I want to really just grow this into something sustainable, but also very much with a kind of a co-op mentality of everybody has something to bring to the table. We can all grow together, we can all amplify each other's voices. And so as much as I love working in franchising, and I do, uh, I really love podcasting, and I think that that's where I'm heading. That's where I'm working towards, is really to just be the owner of this business and my podcast, and have that going for me as well. uh, I have goals right now for one of my shows. One of my goals was to hit 100,000 downloads within the first 2 years, and I am a year and 4 months in, and I'm about 400 downloads away from that. So I keep setting those goals for me. So the next goal is going to be 500,000 downloads. So 5 years down the road, I would love to have, let's say, 2 million downloads on both of my podcasts, and have this studio be so much bigger that we have to move into a larger space, and it gets me excited just thinking about what's possible.